Good afternoon and welcome everyone to this special International Women's Day 2026 webinar hosted by the European Women Rectors Association. I'm Pamela Gillis, your moderator for the day, an Emeritus Professor of Public Health, and I was Vice-Chancellor of Glasgow Caledonian University for 17 years, 17 long years. They went in a flash. The topic we have today, however, is a hot one: gender equality and academic careers in the age of artificial intelligence. And it gives me great pleasure to now pass to the President of EWORA, Professor Hersten Tam, for the welcome address. Now, Hersten served as Vice-Chancellor of Malmö University for over 7 years and is a Professor of Occupational Therapy specialising in neurology and rehabilitation after stroke. Over to you, Hersten.
Thank you very much, Pamela, and dear colleagues, warmly welcome to this EWORA webinar with the title Gender Equality and Academic Careers in the Age of AI. And on Sunday, we are celebrating the International Women's Day, and it is more important than ever to highlight the different challenges we're facing in the world when it comes to gender equality and equity. And I'm, as you heard, the president of EWORA, the European Women Rectors Association, and I'm very proud of that. And EWORA is a small, independent and network-based organization registered in Brussels. And our mission is to promote gender equality as well as good and values-led leadership in the senior academic leadership positions in European universities. And to do this, we need to focus on how to promote women in their academic careers, but also inspire women to take on an academic leadership position in a very competitive world and university culture. And one can wonder if AI will make the academic culture even more competitive or not. Some countries in Europe have still very few female rectors or vice-chancellors or presidents, and especially in the technical universities. In the Nordic countries, the situation is more equal, but we all need to actively work with questions connecting to gender equality in our higher education and research. I also think that European universities have an important global role when it comes to equality and equity, and I hope we will listen to Joseph, who will tell us more about this, I hope. And the mission of EWORA is therefore to involve former and active rectors to come together and inspire each other to be role models and to support more values-led academic leadership in our universities and in the world. Right now, I think it is easy to see the huge need for values-led leadership in the world, or good leadership. This spring, EWORA is initiating an academic leadership and mentoring program for women in leadership positions at the level under the rector, like vice rectors and deans. We will use an inclusive and collaborative pedagogical approach to inspire the development of values-led and strategic leadership skills and to build international networks across European universities. And one strategy is to discuss and reflect on strategies for how AI can be incorporated in values-led ways in higher education and research, taking the point of departure in values linking to the academic values, of course, democracy and human rights, like women's rights and gender equality, which is in focus for this webinar. And in the leadership program, we will also discuss how we can build equal academic careers in the age of AI. It will be very interesting, I think. We will hopefully start the next cohort of the EWORA Academic Leadership and Mentoring Program in the beginning of 2027, and the call for nominations will be announced after summer this year. And once again, I will welcome you to this EWORA webinar, and I hope we will learn more about how we can promote gender equality in the age of AI. And now I would like to hand over to our excellent moderator, Professor Pamela Gillis, the former Vice Chancellor at Glasgow Caledonian University in Scotland. And you already know this, but I think that is very important. For 17 years, Pamela, outstanding. And she is also a valued member of the EWORA board. So very welcome, and the floor is yours, Pamela.
Thank you so much, President Tam. And we have 5 truly exceptional speakers today who will address key issues in this arena, from how we set AI algorithms to institutional adoption of AI, AI as a structural career advantage in the academy, and the need for, as Kirsten emphasised, values-based leadership to ensure, amongst other things, gender equality, and much, much more. Our speakers, very briefly, are Josep Garrel, who is president of the European University Association and a former rector of Ramon Llull University in Spain. He's a professor specialising in artificial intelligence and machine learning. Diana Rekaitieni is rector of the Lithuanian Sports University with a disciplinary background in physical activity, physiotherapy, sports management, and the social sciences. Sunden Feyes, the former rector of Cadiz Has University, a role she held for 8 years in Istanbul, is a physicist by discipline. Patricia Matuc is vice-rector of the University of Wrocław in Poland and is a political scientist by discipline, specialising in public policy in relation to international migration and migrant integration. And Andreas Jakobsen is vice-rector of Malmö University in Sweden and a computer scientist by discipline who has researched the theory and application of technologies across a variety of domains. Now, each speaker will have 10 minutes to present, and I will then take 1 to 2 questions from the chat function from you, our audience. The fulsome discussion at the plenary session will be open to the floor at the end of all speakers' presentations. So speakers, remember, please mute when you are not speaking, and attendees, please put your questions in the chat function. So to our first speaker, and over to you, Josep Garrel.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks a lot for inviting the European University Association to participate in this webinar. In my 10 minutes slot, I would like to share with you first some ideas and concerns from my previous life, and secondly, to talk about 2 EUA initiatives that I think are very timely and that can be helpful for supporting the 2 main missions that EWORA stated on its website: to promote the role of women in leadership position in the academic sector and to advocate for gender equality in higher education and research. So let's begin with some thoughts from my past. My academic background is in computer engineering, and in my previous life, my research field was artificial intelligence. I am talking something about 25 years ago. At that time, nobody talked about artificial intelligence or about machine learning, only the small group of people that work on that. And honestly, I honestly believe that currently too many people are talking about artificial intelligence without knowing exactly what is behind these 2 words. Sometimes the language we use, our words, shape the meaning of what we are saying. And sometimes this is not fully correct. The people that began to use the term artificial intelligence or machine learning had some reasons for that. They thought in those early days that if we were able to artificially replicate one behavior, one task that humans consider intelligent, this can be or could be labeled as artificial intelligence. But what does intelligent mean? Is intelligence linked to learning? Always? Sometimes? Can we say that a machine learns? What are the main differences between human learning and machine learning? We don't have time to go into the details of all this. The only thing that I want to share with you is that not everything labeled with AI is really intelligence in the way we humans understand what intelligence is about. It is a terminology issue that I think it's worth questioning from time to time, at least. Second thought that I think it's worth sharing, machine learning, the core of artificial intelligence, is based on data and algorithms. Algorithms that, to keep it simple, extract, generate models from that data. It is about data, about computational power, and obvious algorithms. And you will get different results using the same algorithm if you feed the machine, if you feed the system with different data. My takeaway is the selection of the data and the learning strategy to use are key. And they are not neutral. They are implicitly and naturally biased. If the data or the algorithm is, for example, gender biased due to implicit or explicit stereotypes, cultural mindsets, etc., what we will get will be equally biased. So how can we control the bias level of our learning data set or the implicit bias of the algorithm due to the cultural framework of the people that create the learning strategy? I don't have answers. This is really very, very hard to do. It is very difficult, especially if the bias is implicit or we don't even know the cultural and or the social framework of the people behind the algorithm. And what about their values? What about the ethical principle of the people developing that artificial intelligence tool? Believe me when I say that bias is an implicit thing of this whole process. If we begin to use AI for critical things, there is a long, long list of things to worry about. Did you ever try to use some of the most popular generalistic generative AI tools available free online? Probably yes. I'm completely sure that yes. Try to challenge these tools with things that you know the answer. Try to ask them the same question, but in different ways. You will probably get contradictory answers. And obviously, it will be biased by nature. If we begin to use artificial intelligence for critical things such as career assessment, recruitment, promotion, research evaluation, teaching, performance monitoring, etc., there is a long list of things to worry about. I cannot agree more on what is included in the presentation of this webinar, and I am going to read it. Without governance frameworks grounded in justice and institutional responsibility, the use of AI risks reproducing structural inequalities rather than advancing inclusive academic environments, end quote. Please keep in mind the fragility of all this process. As always, there are not good or bad technologies. There are good or bad users of the technology. I thought it was worth sharing these concerns based on the experience of a former researcher in this field. Okay, I will move forward to the second part of my initial 10 minutes. In May last year, we published one document with the EUA, European University Association, key principles for attractive and sustainable academic careers. The document is in our website. You can read it. The document is the final report of our task and finish group on academic careers, chaired by our Vice President, Professor Ivanka Popovic. The document does not talk about gender balance explicitly, but it highlights from the very beginning the need to have diverse, equitable, and inclusive academic environments. The document is, I think, a good starting point for institutions, for governments, for agencies, etc., that want to reflect about or to change the current academic careers model. It was intended as a guide for reflection and for change. I invite you all to read the document with the focus placed on gender balance, on inequalities, on inclusiveness. I mean to read the principles we suggest, asking yourself about how those principles can help to detect and to avoid not fair situations. And what would happen if AI is misused in each of the identified areas. I'm not going to go through all the paper, but I'm going to name the principles and some only, as an example, only one of the success factors that we identified. Key principle number 1 is professional development, recognition and rewards. Number 2, diversity. Number 3, growth and collegial interaction. Number 4, early careers, academics. And last but not least, number 5, links with society. The exercise that I am inviting you to do, and by extension to all academic institutions, is to ask yourself if in our institutions or if in our national regional framework, for example, early careers include any type of discrimination, any type of bias, etc. Let me talk just for a minute about this specific dimension. As everybody knows, early career academics are at the highest risk of precarious employment and uncertain future prospects, as universities and higher education institutions in general often cannot offer them long-term employment. People in their early career stages, especially those at the doctoral level, from whom the path ahead is the longest, may find the lack of clarity and security at the start of their career upsetting and may experience the work environment as too competitive, correct? Sadly, nothing new. And what we suggest as one of the 5 key principles is to work on that, on the starting point at the beginning of the academic path, and to solve or at least reduce the long list of issues that makes starting an academic career non-attractive, which by definition will make this non-sustainable. We can ask ourselves, all this is equally true for men and women? Is there any added difficulty for young female academics? The lack of stability during this early stage and the well-known lack of adequate working conditions, or in some cases, unreasonable workloads or limited access to training and development opportunities affect equally to everybody or not? As I said, reading the contents of each key principle, the rationale and background through the glasses of gender balance, we think and we honestly believe can help to identify if there are gender-related questions to answer or issues to solve. As I said, each key principle includes a list of what we call success factors. In other words, priorities for action in that area. As an example, let me quote one paragraph of the success factor number 2 of the key principle on early careers phases, right? I'm going to read it. The provision of clear and transparent career paths with honest information, merit-based criteria, and equal opportunities is a crucial factor in retaining talent. Early career academics may have unrealistic expectations compared to what universities can offer as employers. Clarity on career path, next step requirements, and future opportunities, including that of open, flexible career trajectories, is crucial. Fairness in career paths entails an open and honest acknowledgement that some groups may have a competitive advantage, and that, to a certain degree, personal commitment and comprises such as family time, financial security, or work-life balance are needed to succeed in academia, end quote. In other words, a clear and sometimes non-easy wake-up call to institutions. Okay, as I said, I will invite you all to read it, and if you think it is useful, to use it. And obviously, as I said before, through the glasses of gender balance. Last but not least, very briefly, the UA work on leadership development. To make a long story short, and to focus only on recent times, in summer 2023, we published the final report of the new LEAD project. The entire title of the project was Innovative Leadership and Change Management in Higher Education. New LEAD was an Erasmus Plus funded project that lasted for 3 years, more or less, It was led by the UA, coordinated by my university, and developed by a consortium of national rectors conference across Europe and some universities. The main project outputs consist of activities such as surveys-based mapping exercises in Europe, focus group on leadership development and institutional transformation, and the development of a framework for the design of leadership development programs. In addition, we include in the project the specific case studies on leading change on equity, diversity, and inclusion, joint leadership during crisis, and different leadership styles. The continuation of that project at the UA level has been the implementation of a pilot leadership development program. 2026 will be the second year, and I am proud to say that at least one of the board members of EWORA are involved on it. The program explicitly addresses the need, the value, the strategic importance of both diverse and distributed leadership. This week, for example, Thomas Esterman and Maria Blanco from the UA Secretariat, the people behind the Leadership Development Program, published a short article in the UA's website with the title, "Female Leaders Are You will see that it is not only a declaration of intent, it is indeed an additional call for action. Let me finish saying that there are many more things that need to be done. Improving the current situation is a matter of justice. The fight for equality must be a topic of all. It must be explicitly included in the institutional agendas and priorities. And going back to my initial reflections, the irruption of new technologies may, if not done very carefully, intensify the existing inequalities. Needless to say that you can count on us, you can count on the European University Association to join forces in this fight. Thank you very much, Chair.
Unmute. Thank you so much, Josep, for that stimulating presentation. I was thrilled to hear of the EUA's commitment to diverse and distributed leadership. No more of this top-down university leadership. We need diverse and distributed, and as you say, more female leaders would be helpful in this regard. But the first part of your talk on AI, I was struck by, you're a very good academic, of course. We need to get a clear definition of what we're talking about. Love that start. But the very serious comment you made was on the need for good governance in this arena. That's absolutely critical, which leads back to, good cultures of leadership within our universities. So the two are connected. And I thought that was extraordinary. Can we move on now to the next speaker, Josep? There will be other questions from the floor for you later at the end. And if we can move on now to Diana. Diana?
Yes, here I am. Thank you so much. So, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen behind the screen, thank you so much for inviting me and having an opportunity to take part in this webinar. It's my honor and pleasure. And thank you, Joseph, very much for your introductory speech. And yes, as my background is not in technical science and I'm in social science, my background in social science and physiotherapy, but still we are forced, everyone now, to be a specialist in AI, even if we don't want to. So we have to talk about this, even if it is not our area, because sometimes life happens and we just have to be in touch with the things that we don't know and even don't like maybe sometimes. So still in this context, it is essential to discuss not only about AI, but links to social life of this. Yeah. So No need to say that we are now living in a period of profound transformation driven by multiple factors, not only technical, but geopolitics, climate change, shifting social relations and changes in long-established values and beliefs. And to a very large extent, this transformation is also being shaped by the rapid development of artificial intelligence. And in this context, it is essential to discuss not only technological progress, but also the social dimensions of these changes, including equal opportunities and the persistence of unconscious gender bias in academia and AI systems. Artificial intelligence, it's not simply another tool. It is reshaping how we conduct research, evaluate scholars, distribute funding, define excellence, and everything else. And this transformation raises a critical question: will AI advance gender equality in universities or in academics, or will it reinforce existing inequalities? And to answer this, we must first recognize an uncomfortable truth. Gender inequality in academia did not disappear before AI arrived. So across universities worldwide, women remain underrepresented in senior academic ranks, particularly in STEM fields, and they receive fewer citations, hold fewer leadership positions, and often face disproportionate care responsibilities. And AI research itself, the imbalance is especially stark. Major AI institutions, especially in technology sector, have historically shown gender disparities in technical roles. And this matters because AI systems are shaped by the people who design them and by the data on which they are trained. So AI offers significant opportunities to address some of these structural changes. Algorithms can identify bias in recruitment, funding decisions, and promotion systems. AI can analyze grant allocations, publication metrics, hiring patterns, and reveal systematic disparities that humans might overlook. AI also increases flexibility by automating administrative tasks, assisting with literature reviews, accelerating data analysis, supporting remote collaboration, and AI can transform the working conditions for many researchers, and particularly women who still bear a disproportionate share of caregiving responsibilities. So, but this is the point that I wanted to highlight, because this AI can improve the possibility to work, for example, at home, or to create some other better conditions for women, but still they are much more have responsibilities in their families, and it's not take overload from them. So generative AI tools also lower barriers to academic writing, grant drafting, language editing, and this can democratize access to global publishing system, especially for researchers whose first language is not English, and if it is governed responsibly. And AI can also become an instrument for institutional self-reflection and reform. So these are some kind of progressive and positive sides of AI. But however, AI can also amplify inequality, because the AI systems learn from historical data. If that data reflects existing gender bias and AI will reproduce it, AI does not eliminate bias, it automates it. So gender citation gaps already exist. So if AI systems evaluate research based on metrics influenced by these gaps, they risk embedding disparities into automated decision-making. Women are also underrepresented in AI development itself, and data gaps can systematically disadvantage them. Moreover, the productivity acceleration gap emerges when some researchers adopt AI tools earlier, increasing output and efficiency in ways that evaluation system may reward without considering underlying inequalities. AI also is not influencing individuals. It is transforming also institutions and all processes going on in the institutions. And research, for example, evaluation is increasingly data-driven, and automated systems access impact scores, citation metrics, and productivity indicators. Without critical examination, these systems risk solidifying gender disparities into algorithmic governance. AI research itself requires significant computational resources and funding, which tend to concentrate power in elite institutions where leadership structures remain male-dominated again. So AI therefore risks reinforcing both gender and institutional hierarchies sometimes. Direct gender bias really appears in the academic world today. I don't think that in civilized countries there are such already. Maybe sometimes we meet with them, but they are not so much already. But indirect forms still persist. And unconscious gender bias, often unnoticed prejudice based on gender, influences evaluations and decisions. In universities, it may manifest when lecturers or institutions unintentionally assess competence or leadership potential differently for men and women, or provide an equal support in careers. In AI systems, algorithms trained on biased historical data can inherit stereotypes, producing skewed outcomes in hiring, promotion, and assessment. So I think that positive discrimination or affirmative action is one response to these challenges. Its purpose is to create real opportunities for women in universities, especially in STEM and AI fields. This can include reserving spots, adjusting admission criteria, offering scholarships, mentorships, or targeted recruitment. The goal is not to give women an unfair advantage, but to correct structural imbalances so everyone can compete fairly. Some worry that such measures affect merit or stigmatize women, but evidence shows that when women reach critical mass, teams become more innovative, ethical, and effective. In AI, this matters even more because biased data and male-dominated teams can produce technologies that affect millions of people. Many universities now adopt middle ground approaches: blind evaluation process, outreach programs for girls, mentorships networks, scholarships that do not lower standards. These measures help women reach a critical mass, gradually changing the institutional culture for the better. And it is not enough to have regulations, policies, and formal provisions for equal rights. I think that individual approach to each woman's needs is necessary. Real opportunities require appropriate conditions, support for families, not only for women, and flexible structures that enable women to make use of available opportunities that are provided at universities. And one more thing that I want to highlight, it is also about balancing opportunities and sacrifices in both genders. So it is also essential to consider the cost of achieving high-level positions, because sometimes when we see only numbers, how many women are in positions, sometimes it seems more or less okay, but still we have to consider the cost of achieving the high-level position for women. So both men and women must make some sacrifices, but for women, these costs often intersects with family and social responsibilities. High positions achieved by women are frequently the result of navigating these multiple demands, rather than solely the product of the functioning system. So positive discrimination is a temporary but necessary tool, I think, in order to make these positive changes. And it helps to create equal opportunities and ensures that women can fully participate in shaping the future of AI. Long-term equality also requires cultural change, early encouragement in STEAM, structural support for families, and bias-resistant AI systems. And just now for concluding, artificial intelligence does not automatically create equality or inequality. It just reflects and amplifies the structures in which it is embedded. In universities and research, AI can either reproduce historical gender bias or become a powerful tool for structural transformation. The outcome depends not on the technology itself, but on institutional responsibility, inclusive governance, and ethical leadership. So the era of AI is not just a technological turning point, it is a test of our commitment to equality, and we have the opportunity and the responsibility to ensure that AI helps build a fairer and more inclusive academic world.
Diana, got a call to action. So brilliant. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us also that AI and its translation ability can actually democratize access to research publication and to the publication of scholarly books for colleagues all over the world whose first language isn't English. And I think that's an important point. But here's the question, and I'm just checking. So we know that AI can, as you and Joseph both said, it can replicate existing gender bias. So do we need more women actually programming or leading the programming of systems? Or do we need better governance, or is it a bit of both?
Both, because one is so much related to another.
Thank you. Easy answer. Yeah. Simple question. Actually, a really complex process to get to the answer. Could I please remind colleagues to keep muted if you're attendees whilst our speakers are speaking, and to speakers to also keep muted whilst you're not speaking. Thank you so much, Diana. And now we're going to our third speaker. It's Sondan. Over to you, Sondan.
Thank you. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Okay, I will share my screen here. So good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I would like to celebrate International Women's Days of all participants and the panelists, and I'm really happy to be with these distinguished members of panels. Okay, so gender equality and academic careers in the era of AI. You know, for a long time, academia was in denial about the use of AI tools. And now AI is really part of everyday research. I remember in my institution 2 years ago, we were just discussing the ethical issues coming with the AI, but now everyone is using it. Now AI is also becoming a structural career advantage for academic people. So I want to just, present some results. And in year 2023, a global nature survey conducted with 1,600 researchers all around the world on the use of AI tools in scientific research. And the key question asked in the survey was, how useful will AI tools become in your research area in the next decade, in the next 10 years? And the key answer the result of the survey was really amazing. This survey was conducted 2 years ago, and the result of the survey, more than half of the researchers expect AI tools to become very important and even the essential part in their research area. And if you conduct this survey today, I am sure the number would go beyond 75%. So there is no question about whether, AI tools should be used or not. It is going to be used, and it is helpful for scientists to go after what they want to know about in their field. And in this survey, they also determine in what areas the scientists are using AI: processing research data, writing code, helping or draft and editing scientific papers, summarizing literature, even writing research proposals. So that's for sure. AI is a big help for scientists to pursue what they are wondering and what problem for which they want to find an answer. But there is also a problem with this number. When you look at the, gender inequality in AI usage, if you look at all the sectors, 50% of men versus 37% of women use generative AI tools. This is in general, every sector. But when you look at the research, those are recent studies. The second research also was published in 2024. They looked for female researcher using AI tools and male researcher using AI tools. What they look at, how often those scientists are using AI tools, and there is a differences. Although the females using the AIs, but female researchers use AI tools about 7% less frequently than their male counterparts. But just last week, I found another publication, and that gave me a huge hope. This was done in Germany in two big research institutes of Germany. One is Max Planck, the other one I don't remember. 6,000 participants. One of the main, concluding remarks: gender gap in AI use largely reflects differences in familiarity, not attitude. So it is not attitude problems. It's just, female researchers, once AI tools are introduced, they will use it. That's for sure. So there is at least an area, a space we can work on it. As a month ago, I was in Vilnius on the conference on women in science. There was a scientist, and she was, presenting the result. The number of female, and the male researcher using AI tools, there is at least 20% differences in the gender differences. And I asked the question, why do you think that women are using, less AI tools compared to their male counterparts? What she said is women are more sensitive to the ethical issues compared to men. Yes, we are sensitive, but in using AI tools, I don't think that it's ethical issues. Here, we just have to introduce the tools to women, female researchers, so that they can use it, AI tools, and to become. I don't want to use the word of productive. It sounds more business, but to motivate. Once you ask the question, to keep your motivation, to find an answer, you need, your answer faster. And AI tools help you out to keep you motivated. So now we know AI tools are big help for scientists. But there is another issue there. AI is increasingly used in academic systems. What are those academic systems? Joseph talked about, Diana talked about it, research performance systems, citation analytics, grant review systems, hiring and screening systems. They are all based on AI tools. But the problem with the AI learns from existing data or accumulated data. And when you look at this historical data, I'm sorry, but there is patterns of gender citation gaps, funding disparities, leadership representations. And so here the problem, the leaders of today in higher education system, they have to pay attention how to use AI in any system or in any policy they are implementing. If we do not intervene to the process, the result, the outcome could increase this gap we're already experiencing in higher education institutions, gender inequalities. AI system will learn these inequalities, and AI system will also scale these inequalities unless we intervene to the process. But we have solution. But we don't need a magic solution for that. What it requires is values-based leaderships. When the leaders of higher education have principles and values, governing the system is not an issue. This is what we can do. Technology does not determine outcomes, but governance does. That's why we need values-based leaderships to tackle down this problem. And to have the AI usage helping us to close the gender inequality gaps or anything in the academia. Transparency. This will provide the leaders to monitor how AI systems are used in any evaluation system. Accountability, because the outcome of AI-based system will determine whether the gender equalities will increase or the gap is decreasing. Therefore, bias audits of AI tools very frequent is necessary. Inclusion, that is really, those are not magic solutions. We know the solutions. If the leaders of higher education institution wants to implement systems or policies based on AI, then leaders have to make sure that the working groups do have women or gender experts in the working groups, so that AI governance will not create more problem but help us to solve the problem. And institutional responsibility, I think it's not again institutional responsibility, it is again leadership problem. As I just remind you that AI is helping scientists to solve the problems, whatever problems they have in their mind, is helping. So what we need is the leaders has to design targeted AI training programs so that more female scientists and researchers start using AI tools, and that will also help them to make progress in their academic careers. And we all know that when you look at the ratios of females and male academic people at the starting point, it's almost 50%, 50%. But along the pipeline, there's a leakage. When you go to associate professor and full professor, we are losing women along the pipeline. Why? Because they have family responsibility, etc. But with AI, probably they will spend less time on their research and they can have some sort of balance in their daily life and scientific life. So AI tools may help them, may help us to keep female scientists along the pipeline. Of course, we need to have monitoring system on any system and on any governing system to make sure that gender equality is decreasing. So my last warning, AI does not create fairness, but value-based leadership does. How it does it? By monitoring how AI is being used in the policies and in the system. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Sondan. So we went from you posing the question, how can we eradicate the historical database biases in our AI systems, to you coming up with some solutions. So the question, it's a tricky
Okay.
one. And you mentioned transparency, training programs, monitoring, adoption gaps. But in terms of accountability, who actually is going to undertake these audits of the system's biases? Is it our national academies? Is it the boards of governors of our universities, colleges, and research institutes? How are we going to actually practically undertake these audits?
Pamela, if you wait for national, then it may take forever. As an institution, we have to find out a way for this accountability. And there are many universities are really enough number of scientists and the administrative staff. I am sure within the institution we can manage it. Otherwise, it would take forever if you wait, national standards or so.
Completely agree.
But I agree with you. The biggest challenge we will have, to manage this historically biased data. That we need experts for.
Yeah. But I wonder if our individual institutions can actually tackle those historical biases in our data systems, or if it will need government intervention. We'll have great organizations like the European Universities Association providing fabulous frameworks for us and being advocates. But, we're really going to have to get together and be bold to make this happen.
Agree, Pamela.
Thank you so much, Sondan.
Sure.
That's great. Can we move now? You can see we're all getting excited. Well, I am about our conversation. Can we move now, please, to Patricia? Over to you, Patricia.
Thank you very much. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. This is my pleasure. My today's intervention is based on 3 points, and all 3 of them are based on my experience as vice rector. It's my 6th year. I have a long way to 17 years. However, previously I've been Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. So everything I want to share with you today is based on my observation as the woman leader in higher education. I name 3 points. First one is before the glass ceiling, there is a sticky floor. We all know that girls outperform boys academically across most European education systems, and they earn higher grades, graduate in larger numbers, and are more likely to finish their higher education, which is particularly important in the times of high dropout from studies. Yet by the time these women enter the labor market, their confidence in negotiation, public speaking, or self-advocacy lags behind their male peers. Not because they lack talent, but because nobody invests in those skills with the same intention. Honestly speaking, during my primary school, there has been a famous statement that boys are more equipped in maths and girls should concentrate in arts. I was the one who was told by the teacher that, maths, it's not for you, which was not the truth. but I was very much surprised when I entered the primary schools just a couple of weeks ago, and I had the impression that we are still deeply rooted in this statement, and it really impacts the performance of women or girls in early education, and also in their choice of education in higher education. So I think, as I said, not because girls lack talent, but because nobody invested in those skills with the same intention. And it's, as I said, it starts from schools, and this idea goes further through the education. Social and leadership competences are not intact. They are learned. And if we do not teach them deliberately through mentoring, public speaking, training, and exposure also to the role models, I don't understand what we are using, and I speak about the Polish case, but I'm sure that's the same case in almost all European countries. We are using only the male examples from the history in our school books. So if we don't use the role models from primary schools through university, we send women into the world with excellent degrees and very incomplete toolkits. I do believe that AI will not fix this. If anything, of course, AI risks widening this gap if institutions adopt it passively, without asking who benefits and who is left behind. And of course, if we still use the same examples, we also feed the AI with the same deeply rooted bias. So for me, this is a huge challenge. How do we feed the AI to show the world of equal opportunities for boys and girls? My second point, I call it the pipeline is full, the power isn't shared. Women make up the majority of students at the European universities, 55% in average, and up to 70-80% in the fields like education, health, and social sciences. And yet men continue to dominate the room where the most important decisions are made. So, I mean, senates, governing boards, rectors' offices. I'm really sorry to share with you that even in my own university, I am the only woman in the rector's team, which every day breaks my heart, because I would be very glad to have more colleagues sitting at the table. In many universities, women hold fewer than 30% of senior leadership positions. And this is not a pipeline problem. This is a power problem. And in the age of AI, it matters even more, because the people sharing AI strategies at universities will determine those needs, whose needs are prioritized. We need concrete mechanisms for gender balance in collegial bodies. And I personally believe that the reserve seats, the transparent recruitment, and diverse shortlists are the tools to change the situation. I do not believe that it's going to be changed automatically, because we are waiting for this much too long. These are not very radical ideas. They are democratic ideas, and institutions that have adopted them report not only women in leadership, but also better governance outcomes overall. We can compare it also to business, where this kind of tools were implemented. Last point, which is probably closest to my heart, I call them, you climb the ladder, now throw down the rope. This is the motto of my activity as a vice rector. When a woman reaches a leadership position in any institution, not only higher education, in my opinion, and especially in the institutions where women are still underrepresented in the governing bodies, she carries a dual mandate to do her job well, it's obvious, and to change the conditions for those who come after her. In practice, this means consistent mentoring, and I try to empower the younger colleagues to believe in themselves and to try to reach the higher positions, because I truly believe that this kind of support is necessary if you stay before the decision, should I try or maybe should I not? And by consistent mentoring, I do not mean once in a year an intervention or a speech via conference, but everyday work. It means sponsoring women publicly in the room where decisions are made. It means using your voice to challenge policies which are equal. Even to mention, and what I'm doing, that it's not okay when on a big conference there are only male panels, and we still see it every day. It means, of course, hiring women, promoting women, and creating conditions like flexible schedules, parental support, or safe reporting mechanism where women can thrive, not just survive in the organization. And it means being visible, letting younger women see the leadership is possible by example and by sharing our experiences, also the tough ones, because still there are many places and many spaces and many tables where I am the only woman. And sharing this kind of experiences, it's important for younger women, I believe, in the process of change. I have seen institutions transformed not by big and grand reforms, but by one woman in power who decided to make space at the table for others. In the context of AI, this responsibility extends to ensuring women to have equal access to AI. You have already mentioned it, that women are less likely to use AI from ethical reasons, but maybe also from any other technical obstacles. So to use the AI as a tool and for training. And I think it's also very important that women are present in teams, shaping the digital strategies for universities. Empowerment is for me not an individual achievement. It's an institutional commitment to start with women leaders. And I can promise you that till the end of my office, I will try to do my best to help other colleagues to start governing our higher education institution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Patricia, and thank you for reminding us so clearly and effectively about sticky floors, that, you know, how women start out in schools, to full pipelines, to that importance for empowerment of an institutional commitment. While you were speaking, I was reminded of that famous statement by Madeleine Albright, the first ever female Secretary of State in the USA. There's a special place in hell for women who don't support other women. And as you said, in your experience, you found that it's extremely important to step up to the plate and be bold, even in all male, and especially in all male panels or environments. So thank you very much for that. The question I was going to ask you, I'm just checking our chat. But when you've done that, Patricia, and you've been at a table where you've had a brilliant idea and you've presented it in front of an all-male panel, have you found that that idea has been well received acted upon, or has it been somehow taken over by men or adopted by men as their own idea, which is not a bad idea anyway, if it is. But have you felt that your ideas, not necessarily in AI, but generally, have been received in those contexts?
I think it's sometimes hard to be the only woman at the table. Because what you mentioned my favorite quote by Albright, which I'm using very often, but she once also said that every time she was the only woman at the table, she thought many times before she started to speak. So sharing your idea when you are the only woman at the table is probably much more difficult. But I try to do. I don't have any other choice many times, so I don't see any, let's say, discrimination from my male colleagues. However, I truly believe that the diversity means better governance than a only male governance.
Yeah, we're back to that diverse and distributed leadership in our universities, colleges, and research institutions. Thank you so much, Patricia. We have our final speaker now, and can I remind our attendees who are listening online, please put your questions in the chat. So it's over to you, Andreas.
Thank you so much. I will now try to share my presentation, and I just want to check. Sorry about that. That you see the right view.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. So, dear colleagues, I am Andreas Jakobsson, the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Malmö University. Malmö is, as I'm quite sure you know, a city in the very south of Sweden. Malmö received its own university in 1998. So we are a young, open university with knowledge and society in focus. Around 27,000 students from 80 different countries study at our university. It is my distinct pleasure to participate in this important webinar here with you today. I have worked at Malmö University for quite some time now, mainly as a university teacher in computer science, as explained by Pamela, but also as a member of management in different roles and at different levels. In my current capacity as the Deputy Vice Chancellor, an assignment that I've had since September last year, by the way, I have broad responsibility for education and quality assurance. That is, of course, in addition to replacing our rector, Professor Mia Rönnmar, whenever there's a need for that. I am, by the way, the only male in our university management. Thanks to a very forward-looking and well-connected Vice Chancellor at Malmö University, namely Professor Kerstin Tam, I have had the honor of having an overarching university responsibility for digitalization, automation, and such processes ever since 2018. And of course, in the fall of 2022, that area of responsibility was obviously extended to also include AI, or more specifically, generative AI. So at Malmö University, we have initiated several projects and processes related to generative AI across the university. And I think the same can be said for most universities in Sweden, and I believe in Europe and in the rest of the world. Notably, as we have heard here today, also some guidance on the use of generative AI in the university sector have, of course, been provided through the EUA, the EU, the OECD, and more. Here in Sweden, a brief update, a new set of national guidelines for the use of AI at our higher education institutions will be discussed at the next National Rectors Conference in about a fortnight or so. So things are happening, finally, one might say. So When I think about AI, and when I specifically think about AI in the context of gender equality and academic careers, I kind of constantly find myself in a situation where I reflect not on the academic career itself, but rather on the role of the preceding education. So I will thus target the main messages that I will share with you here today around the importance of university education. So I have prepared 3 or maybe 4 such messages for you. And the first one reads, academic careers do not really begin with hiring decisions. They begin in education. And AI is already reshaping that foundation. AI is influencing how students learn, how they develop academic confidence, and how they progress in their education. This means AI is beginning to influence who becomes prepared for an academic career in the first place. So if we care about gender equality in academic careers, we must then examine how AI shapes and influences the equal opportunities for learning, assessment, and progression, as these processes determine who develops the competence, indeed the confidence and qualifications needed to pursue academic career paths. The second of my 3 to 4 messages reads, the greatest risk, I think, is not biased algorithms, but passive institutional adoption. Across academia, universities are integrating, they are working with handling, adopting AI, but they're doing so in a fragmented and uncoordinated way. And Sweden is, by the way, by no far an exception to this. But this creates, I think, invisible inequality in access, in guidance, and in support of learning AI. So when institutions do not act deliberately and purposefully, AI becomes a structural career advantage for some, but not for others. Universities are not just affected by AI. The universities are actively determining how AI will shape future academic careers. So structured adoption and ways of thinking around that in the university sector, I do believe, are key here. The third of my messages that I would like to share with you reads, AI literacy is not an individual responsibility. It should be a part of the entire academic infrastructure. Like libraries, like laboratories, AI must be treated as a core academic infrastructure. This requires integrating AI literacy into education curricula, ensuring equal access to tools and training, and thereby providing institutional support for both staff and students. The key question is not, I believe, whether students use AI. Instead, the key question is whether universities ensure that all students can use AI in ways that support academic values, that support our core mission in society, and in the long run, of course, fair academic career opportunities for all. So, as a final thought, gender equality in academia is not, I think, only determined by hiring policies. It is largely determined by who becomes academically successful and confident enough to enter the academic workforce. And AI is, of course, as we have seen, already beginning to influence that developmental process. So in addition to everything that is crucial to handle in the short run, as we have heard by the previous speakers here today, we must also find the strength and time to handle the truly long-term perspective. And that, I do believe, is for the benefit of all. In other words, this EWORA webinar is, of course, spot on. By that, I thank you for your time at this point and stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Andreas. So precise, but covering so many important aspects. So the question I would have for you, because we had a couple of minutes from your presentation. So here I am thinking, right, we got to tackle this historical bias in our data sets, and that's going to be the most important thing. And then you come along and say, no, the greatest risk is passive institutional adoption of AI. So what would structured adoption look like in our universities?
I think that's $1 million question, to be honest. But I think that there are some, I've put a great deal of thought into this, and I think that there are some crucial components that should be added, both individually at the universities, but also throughout university sectors in Sweden, for instance, but also in the Europe. I think that there is a need for a governance framework at the university level, something for everyone at the university to be guided by in terms of, for instance, what is allowed, or rather what is explicitly not allowed in terms of AI usage at the university. And I think that there also needs to be a broad agreement on the importance of integrating that governmental framework in education curricula, like courses, like degree programs. And if you take that step, indeed, and if you do think about all of the AI aspects that will be integrated in fair and equal way throughout a university's broad education, then you must realize you need support material, you need consultative support, you need an infrastructure for acquiring the necessary tools, you need competence development for all of the staff members, as well as for the students, I might add. And I think that there are some new things. So this is pretty basic, but I think you also need to think around collegial learning. I think you need to think really long and hard around a room for experimentation and trials with respect to AI tools. And I think you, of course, most importantly, all of the time need to constantly guard your intellectual independence so that you guard your right, our mission in society. So I think that there are some ingredients that are crucial, and I named, give you some examples. What do you think about those?
Well, I'm so excited, actually, because it's thrilling. It's an intellectual adventure that we had, but a big challenge to us because our institutions across Europe, I mean, across the whole world, our universities, colleges, and research institutions are facing financial fragility. The challenges are huge financially. The general public, thinks, well, what are universities for now? I'm not really seeing the value in universities. So how are they going to manage to create the space to do all this new work? But if we don't do it, we'll be less valuable to society going forward in all disciplines, from medicine to the arts and culture.
Quite right. That is indeed an intellectual endeavor, or however you put it, was very elegant, by the way. I think you're quite right, but you won't get anywhere by not also opening your eyes for these challenges, while reviewing them, also balancing them with the opportunities that are created thanks to the adoption of new technologies such as generative AI, because there are advantages as well.
Because our young people are coming to universities with very sophisticated forms of learning developed through their mobile phones using AI already.
Yes.
So we need to be able to respond. Absolutely thrilling. Thank you, colleagues, so much.